us sing. Some glad morning we shall see Jesus in the air, coming after you and me, joy is ours to share. What rejoicing there will be when the saints shall rise, headed for that jubilee yonder in the skies. Oh, what singing, oh, what shouting, on that happy morning when we all shall rise. Oh, what glory, hallelujah, when we meet our blessed Savior in the skies. When with all that heavenly host we begin to sing, singing in the Holy Ghost, how the heavens will ring. Millions there will join the song, with them we shall be, praising Christ through ages long, heaven's jubilee. Oh, what singing, oh, what shouting, on that happy morning when we all shall rise. Oh, what glory, hallelujah, when we meet our blessed Savior in the skies.
Thank you, John Adam, for that wonderful singing. Thank you, church, for singing out as well. It was great. Appreciate the prayer, Nick. Appreciate each of you being here. We do have some visitors with us this morning, and it's good that you're here. We welcome you back at each and every opportunity that you might be able to be here. Joyce and I will be leaving immediately after worship service this morning, headed to Vicksburg for the funeral of a longtime friend. This man was a member of the Rolling Fork Church when I started dating Joyce, and I was going with her every so often, and this particular man made an impression upon me at that time, and we've remained in touch over the years and became reacquainted again when I moved back up to the Delta. He died this past week, and his wife called and asked that I conduct a funeral, so we'll be leaving to go down to Vicksburg. Lord willing, though, we'll be back tomorrow, so pray for that trip. We're going to have to really get on down there for that funeral, because it's at 3 this afternoon. Several years ago, a friend visited with us there at the house. They brought their 3 kids with them, 12, 10, and 8, something like that. And I know it's not politically correct to term it like this right now, but you know, those 3 kids, they was like a bunch of wild Indians now, let me tell you. They was running all over the house, slamming the cabinet doors, just making all kind of climbing on everything. And you know, I just couldn't believe it. It wasn't minding me, wasn't minding their mother. And I told Joyce, I said, you know, these kids are heathens. I mean, they are really, really bad. And you know, their mother tried to correct them. You know, she'd say, "You better quit that." Says, now don't make me count to 3 now. 1, 2. I'm going to come over there now. I really am. I'm not fooling with you now. 1, 2. Y'all cut that out now, really. Cut it out. And I asked Mom, I said, can't you count to 3? Can't you count to 3? You never seem to be able to get there. She said, oh, they're just trying to find themselves. I said, well, I'm going to help them find themselves if you can't find themselves. Because this has got to quit. It's got to quit. A few months later, we're in their home visiting. And the younger one almost knocks me down coming out of the bedroom, one of the bedrooms there. And his older brother was pretty close to him. He come out of that door, but he was carrying a 12-gauge shotgun. Now, I grabbed the shotgun. Now, I don't know what he was going to do, all right? But it was a loaded 12-gauge shotgun that he had. And you know, I told Joyce after we left, I said, I don't guess they found themselves yet. And you know, that's the way it is with some things nowadays. And I believe a major cause of that particular situation was this guy by the name of Dr. Benjamin Spock. Some of you may have heard of him. Years ago, he authored a book on parenting. And what it has done is caused a couple of generations of kids to be raised without spanking them. You know, this thing nowadays, or now what he suggested was this thing called time out. You know, okay, time out, go over there, you know, and be by yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So Dr. Spock didn't believe in spanking. He believed in this time out, you know. But, and that's just my opinion. Basically, that's no discipline at all. And I'm sorry if that may, some of you may believe that time out might be discipline. But anyway, in the middle 1990s, the principal at Joyce's school was arrested, all right, for spanking a child. Joyce witnessed the whole thing. Everything was by the book and all that. But the parents pressed charges against the principal. And they come up there and they handcuffed him right in the office and they marched him through the school, right out in there, right out to the police cruiser, only to get down to the police station. And the judge there immediately released the principal and dropped any charges there against the principal. But the principal was arrested. You see, parents start taking the word of their children rather than the teachers, all right? Gone are the days when if you got in trouble at school, you got in trouble at home. No questions asked. No questions asked. And so in school, breaking a pencil nowadays is followed by rudeness, followed then by cursing, pushing, shoving, fighting, then maybe suspension, followed by hanging out on the street corner. And so the downward spiral begins, and another angry child is born in the ghetto. Now, because of incidences like this and the spanking or corporal punishment, I guess as many calls it, all of that has all but vanished, okay, because of all of these problems. Vanished within the home, vanished within the school, and the discipline problems continue to grow and intensify. So over the years, we've raised a couple of generations of kids who really have not been disciplined. I think we've got too many wimpy parents around. And these wimpy parents don't like to apply the Board of Education to the britches of the kids. So little Johnny gets to run wild, and when he's told no, he gets mad, he gets upset, throws temper tantrums, and sometimes gets violent because he knows there are really no substantial consequences to his action. Nowadays, kids have been taught that there are no winners and losers. Everybody is a winner, and everybody gets a trophy, participation trophy. Everybody, because if we don't give everybody a trophy, little Johnny may get upset, you see. Little Johnny may get their feelings hurt. And today we're having to deal with adults and kids who have grown up always being told yes in a gimme society. If somebody says no, or somebody hurts little Johnny's feelings, then they go off the deep end and violence occurs at home, at school, in the mall, in the workplace, because little Johnny didn't get what he wanted. Yes, parents, I think, and society have failed to heed the advice in Proverbs. Proverbs 10:13 says this. Wisdom is found on the lips of him who has understanding, but a rod is for the back of him who is devoid of understanding. Basically, Proverbs says, spank them, discipline them. Proverbs 13:24 says, he who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him disciplines him promptly. Proverbs 23:13. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. And the last one in Proverbs 29:15. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child left to himself brings shame to his mother. During my 10 years back in the Delta, we were able to provide 2 new homes to individuals there and work, repair, clean, fix up some 25 others. And I would go around the community looking for projects for us to kind of take on and allow the kids with our professional helpers to do some good in the community. And as I went around, I found in a lot of these homes that it was a grandmother, what I came to call a godly grandmother, who was really taking care of the children and grandchildren. And in a couple of instances, I remember some great-grandchildren being in the home where this grandmother was taking care of all of the kids there. The father had usually skipped out, was not around. The mother was usually on drugs or something, never home at night and still gallivanting around the neighborhood. She would show up sometime during the month to grab a monthly check that came for the kids. But one thing I did notice, these godly grandmothers, they were beginning to die out, okay? There was a certain generation of grandmothers there that really loved their Bible, that really read their Bible, that attempted to direct her children and grandchildren down the right path. But this era of grandparenting seems to be dying out. And it really concerns me. I don't see any loving, godly grandmothers coming up in the pipeline, so to speak, to care for the other children coming up after them. And I shudder to think what society is going to look like, okay, during that period of time, given what it looks like now with these godly grandmothers attempting to keep the children and grandchildren under control. And the breakdown of the family is a major problem. God's plan for a man and a woman to leave their parents and come together, biblical. Genesis 2:24 talks about that. And to raise a family in accordance with what's in Ephesians 5 and Ephesians 6, that's God's plan for man and God's plan for marriage. But this is not happening today, all right? This is not happening. We have children growing up without the father's discipline, without the mother's loving care, guidance and direction, and without this discipline at home. These children become unruly at school and usually find themselves as outcast, all right? And then hanging out on the street corner, or either spoiled rich kids on drugs, drinking, and riding in their convertibles. See, I saw it. I saw it. And most probably, you've seen it too. Joyce and I mentored several at-risk kids there in the Delta. And there was this one child who was able to raise his reading to such a level where he was able to get off of disability, all right? Well, once he got off of disability and went for that test, he passed the test without any problem. The consequence of that, though, was that his check, quote unquote, stopped. You would not believe the anger of the mother, all right, towards me and Joyce, because we had caused this individual's reading level to increase so that he would have a real chance in life. The mother was upset with us, and thus she would not allow us to continue working with that child. And this is what we seem to be fighting, okay? The children fail to receive an education because they can't read, and many times now they're even leaving without a certificate of attendance. Now, you probably didn't know anything about that. You know, usually individuals get a diploma when they graduate. You would not believe the number of individuals who now don't get a diploma but get a certificate of attendance. If they just show up and do halfway some type of work, they get a certificate of attendance. Many of them don't even get the certificate of attendance nowadays because they failed to show up and they don't do their work. Without the mother and father involved in their lives, the children are destined to failure, destined to the street and a life of crime, drugs in many cases, prison, lifetime of poverty. Nowadays, you know, within the school systems, we've got metal detectors. Many schools got the school security officers. It's upheaval in the classrooms, disrespect shown to the teacher. Blame is being placed, all the problems being blamed, the teachers being blamed for all of the students' problems. You know, you can't teach, you can't haven't been able to help my son, et cetera, you're a terrible teacher, and all that good stuff. Teachers themselves are coming under physical attack. That was just last week before last, I saw a 62-year-old science teacher was just beaten down by one student. Just beaten down. The other students just sitting there. One of them was filming the whole thing. And of course, school violence has increased. In the 1970s, school shootings totaled 30 in that whole decade. 30, with 38 dead. In the 2010s, the decade that we're in right now, so far, we've had 143 school shootings with 135 dead and 250 wounded. That's up from 30 in the 70s to 143 this decade. When I was in school, the major problem we had was a couple of older boys smoking in the bathroom or either behind the gym, chewing gum, and running in the hall at lunchtime to get down to the cafeteria. Now, those are the problems that we had in school back then. There are debates, okay, among our politicians and others as to what causes all of this stuff going on, the killings and everything. And there are many who believe the cause of all of this mayhem being thrust upon us is the easy access to guns that individuals have. And I get nauseated when I hear political politicians attempting to make their case for a ban on guns and assault-style weapons, somehow thinking this will stop, the violence. Guns are not the cause. Guns may be the method, all right. used to cause the violence, but they're not the cause of the violence. If we've learned anything from the terrorist, anything whatsoever, it should be that whether it's a gun, a knife, a box cutter, a truck, an airplane, suicide bombers, it's not the method that's the problem. It's the ideology. It's the thinking. It's the mindset of the individual. It's the mindset of our children. It's the mindset of these adults now. When computers first came upon the scene, there was this term, trash in, trash out, to emphasize what the computer will do. It'll do just exactly what you tell it to do. You input trash, you're going to get trash out. And I found this to be true with our children as well. You know, if we bombard them with trash, or someone bombards them with trash, then what we're going to get from them is trash. Listen to the filthy rap music, all right? Glorifies violence, degrades women, plots hatred. Listen to that stuff. There's free-flowing beer, all kinds of drugs, sex, violence, pornography. The internet can get them anywhere to see anything. The thirst for more evil and more killing in these popular video games now. There's hardly a movie made nowadays without taking the Lord's name in vain. There's no respect for virtually anyone or anything. Trash in, trash out. And I've mentioned the breakdown of the American family, absence of male leadership, lack of commitment within marriage, high divorce rate, single-parent homes, latchkey kids, lack of formal education, babies having babies. Nowadays, many of our homes are in shambles. Our schools are failing. Our churches remain half empty. Our universities and colleges have predominantly left-winged, liberal, social activist, atheists teaching our children. With this, there's no wonder we got a problem. There's no wonder we got a problem. Now, the problems we face are not just with our youth. Remember, I told you about some of these adults. Adults within our society certainly have not been the role models that they should be. The lying, cheating, stealing, misinformation prevalent within the government even. The corporate world, businesses, industry. The immorality and dishonesty of our government officials and other high officials. And as a former management official within government, I am shocked, horrified, and upset with the management officials and what they have done in some of our agencies within the government. They should be prosecuted, and they should be sent to jail, because I've seen a lot of laws that have been broken by them. Many of our leaders are more interested in their own welfare than the welfare of the nation. No wonder we're in shambles. We don't even have enough prisons to hold everybody. Private industry is now building prisons, all right? Building prisons for a profit, so to speak. The government pays these prisons to house these prisoners. There was one private prison, satellite prison up in the Delta, you're not going to believe this now. The state of Hawaii, all right, had sent all of their most dangerous prisoners to this satellite facility over in the Delta. How about that? To change the actions of an individual, to change the thinking of an individual, to change the mindset of an individual, it's a process that begins in the home, supported within the churches, supported in the school, extended even into college, and sometimes into the workplace. It's a lifelong process, okay, of instilling values and discipline and respect. and biblical truths ingrained in our children as they grow up. If proper behavior is not enforced in the home and in the school, then what you see is the violence we have within society today. But I believe that most of the problems that we have witnessed within the nation are just symptoms of a bigger problem. They're just symptoms. When I go to the doctor, I have a pretty simple agenda. Doctor, I want to answer 2 questions. What's wrong and how can I get well? Sometimes that's not as easy as it sounds. But we have to get to the root of the problem, not the symptoms. And I think our problem in America today, the heart of the problem is the problem of the heart. The heart of the problem is the problem of the heart. And the problem with our politicians is that they're trying to treat each symptom rather than treat the root of the problem. And we have to look back and see. Sure, prayer has been removed from schools, religious programs have been banned, God, Jesus, and the nation's motto, "In God we trust," have been ordered to be removed from our public institutions. Over the years, many people have chipped and continue to chip away at removing from our country the one person who could solve our problems, and that is God and his son, Jesus Christ. Yet many people continue to want to remove them. The single best thing we can do to increase opportunity of our children, to raise incomes, to build a fairer society, to fight crime, to have less drug addiction, to improve health, to reduce welfare, you name it, you name it. The best thing we can do is to make sure that every child in America is raised in a stable, loving home underpinned by the values of God and Jesus Christ. That's how we get to the root of the problem. We will never solve these problems putting a Band-Aid on cancer. It'll never happen. We have to get to the root of the problem. As Rager read this morning, Matthew 22:37, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind." This is a great and foremost commandment. Folks, that's what we've got to do. That's what we've got to do. We've got to return to God. We've got to return to Jesus. I'm going to close with guarding a verse that talks about guarding our hearts. It's in Proverbs 4:23-26. Proverbs 4:23-26. "Keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it spring the issues of life. Put away from you a deceitful mouth, and put perverse lips far from you. Let our eyes look straight ahead, and your eyelids look right before you. Ponder the path of your feet, and let all your ways be established. Do not turn to the right or the left. Remove your foot from evil." Guard our hearts. A little over a year ago, I thought all was lost. I'm going to be honest with you. I really did. But I believe God has given us a reprieve here for a couple of more years. And I pray that we take advantage of that, okay? Because there may not be a chance, a second chance. Once we as adults, as parents, all right, solve our heart problems, we can better set our influence upon our children and others. We will then be in a better place to guide our communities and nation to better times. And while you're at it, you may be able to influence, that one individual out there into the community somewhere. That individual is waiting on you, hoping and waiting for help. Maybe you are the one that could lead that person to Christ and a better life here and forevermore. If you haven't been baptized and become a member of the church, we can assist you in that this morning. Or if you have been baptized and have strayed away but would like to come back, we can help with that too. If we can help you in any way, let it be made known now while we stand and sing.